Okay, I'm here with Michele Mount, who's running for state rep in the 112s. Give me a little bit about your background.
I actually have kind of an eclectic background. I was born and raised in Ansonia in a political family. My father was a House rep for 12 years, majority leader, and went on to be Attorney General under Ella Grasso and Bill O'Neill. And so I was raised in politics and with the idea of public service and giving back. And I thought all kids go to headquarters every, September, October, and November in the fall. But I left here. I went to the University of Southern California for my undergraduate degree, which was in communications. And I actually worked for 7 years as a writer and television producer in Hollywood and in Hawaii. Okay. The best thing I ever did there was I did a documentary in China with 7 high school kids from Hawaii interacting with 7 high school kids from China. It was really this great cultural exchange. But I decided that, I've always had a love of the law, and it's, I guess, the family business. Father's an attorney, my brother's an attorney. So I went to law school, and I really loved the academic part of it. I loved the constitutional law. I liked history. So I became an attorney, and I worked in a number of firms for a while, and I felt like something was missing. I belonged to a church, and I was on the outreach board, and we did a lot of good social program help, and I felt really good about that. And so I kind of got back into politics. I started working with people who were running for office, and I eventually was hired as the Director of Legislative Affairs for Bridgeport. And this is the catalyst really for me wanting to run.
Since you've been out there knocking doors, talking to people in your district, tell me some of the concerns that your constituents have come back to you and said, hey, this is a problem. This is a problem I'm having. What can you do as state rep to help me out?
Well, I've actually had some wonderful experiences going door to door. People are generally just wonderful, and the basic concerns are property taxes, education, the economy, the environment, and they share their ideas, and I can tell them a little bit about my viewpoints. But what I've really enjoyed most is I've met a number of individuals who have had specific problems, and I have tried to broker the solution and be a problem solver. I had one particular gentleman who had been trying to contact the Attorney General regarding appraising, and I was able to facilitate that. I've really enjoyed talking to the seniors. We sit down. Conventional wisdom says, when you go door knocking, you don't want to spend too long at a door, and I disagree because I've heard so many wonderful stories and so many experiences, good and bad, that I really feel more in touch with my constituents. And I think that is really important. I think the people in town, your community, should tell the representative what they want how they want the representative to use their voice up in Hartford.
You talked a little bit about property taxes. And it's always a big concern with a lot of people. They're always upset about the rising property taxes. We have a lot of taxes that are going up to Hartford, and a lot of people complain that we have all this money that's going up to Hartford, but we don't get a lot of money coming back.
Right.
What would you do if you are elected state rep in terms of trying to get some of that money that's up in Hartford, bring it back down to your district to help alleviate a lot of the issues that are happening in your area?
Actually, I have a 3-part plan,
okay.
But up in Hartford, what I would do is try to use the relationships that I've built to bring Monroe to their attention. And we have a lot of issues here. We've had people who've lived here forever who can't afford to stay in their homes because property taxes are rising. I would help revise the the educational cost sharing formula, the ECS, because it's an unfair way to distribute money for education. And if you increase state aid for education, I believe Connecticut said it was going to fund Connecticut's education 50%. and that's not across the board. I think the average right now is 41%, and here in Monroe it's less than 20%. So the more state aid you have put into education, the less burden the town has. We have to, in Connecticut, I think we have to take the lead with attracting new industries here, especially green technology and green jobs. I think this is obviously the wave of the future because we cannot remain dependent on foreign oil. We can't, in reality, we should not be remaining dependent on oil, period. But that's going to take some time. What we can do in the meantime, going back to door, I talked to a gentleman who had just put solar panels on his house. And I said, how does it work? Do you like it? He said, I love it. I don't have an electric bill, and this will pay for itself in 3 years. So give people credits for doing some energy improvements to their houses. It will create jobs. Maybe you'll have more solar panel installers here, and those are jobs that have to be done here. They can't go anywhere else. Also, whatever type of energy saving you can give credits for, and hopefully will attract enough industry in Connecticut that will grow our tax base, and the credits, while giving out money, will help attract new money into the state.
You told me about some of the issues that you would do if you were elected state rep. Why don't you tell me a little bit of the differences between you and your opponent in this election?
I think the main difference for me is that I think I will be more in touch with the community and their concerns versus the concerns of large corporations, and voting the citizens' interest instead of the corporation's interest. My opponent has made several votes that really were against the best interests of people, on the Husky plan, on the current health insurance plan that was just vetoed by the governor. She's made choices. She was involved with a group called Women in Government, which is funded by Merck, and she actually introduced the legislation to have mandatory HPV, which is the human papillomavirus vaccine, given to any girl entering 6th grade. Well, I'm a mom. I have a 4th grader, and I absolutely object to having any mandatory type of vaccine. And all my groups, all my friends also object. My doctor objects. The AMA has come out now and with different studies, and the vaccine is too new. It's been linked to paralysis and other problems. And also, I believe in a lot of cases that with health care, nothing should be mandated. You have to do this. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, when you have a great public safety concern, like whether it's, smallpox or measles or diseases that can really kill people.
Right. This
particular disease, while the results, and they don't even know if it's true, could be developing cervical cancer. We don't even know if that's definitely true, but it's also a sexually transmitted disease, and we don't mandate people take AIDS tests. We don't mandate that people do other things that should be a private decision between the patient, the doctor, or the parent, and the daughter.
We talked a little bit off camera about the new restrictions that are being placed on teens in terms of getting their driver's licenses, and you're in support of that. Tell me why you support that and the difference between you and your opponent pertaining to that issue.
Well, the main difference is she voted against it and I was for it. In my capacity as a legislative director, this was a bill that was aimed at preventing tragedies when dealing with teenage drivers. Yes, the restrictions are a little tougher, but they're meant to be. It forces the parent and the teen to really build a partnership and makes the teen understand that, okay, we have some serious ramifications here. The extra training hours can only produce better prepared drivers. The fact that a teenager's license can be suspended for reckless driving or talking on the cell phone while driving, where that's only for 48 hours and the parents will go pick it up. But if we didn't have that legislation, they couldn't automatically revoke their license for those types of things. And my opponent felt that this would be too hard to enforce. And I say driving without a license is hard to enforce, but it's still illegal. And she suggested, well, putting a sticker on a car that identifies it as probationary. Most teenagers don't have their own car. They have a family car, and parents, you can't make them or drivers who are 20 or 21 drive around with a sticker on the car.
Right. How has this been received with the public? Are they in favor of the restrictions on teenagers?
Overwhelmingly, right. They're in favor. Even I have a 15-year-old in high school, and he's getting his license next year. And I've actually sent out to, if you'll join my email list, I've sent them out a guide that is online from the state and from the DMV that sort of outlines what excuse me, the new restrictions are, and how, very clearly and simply put.
Now, another thing that I always hear about in my travelings, and I don't know how much of an issue it is right here in the 112th, but transportation. I'm always hearing a lot of problems with the roads, state roads. We're here on Route 25. I know because I used to live in Newtown, that Route 25 and Route 34 are notorious for a lot of traffic. What would you do, or what could you do, if you were elected to state rep to help alleviate some of the traffic problems that are happening in this area? I know they're doing some traffic improvements down on 25. I used to live in Newtown. I live in Danbury. Now we have a lot of traffic problems, such as Route 7, Route 6. What would you do in terms of try to help alleviate some of the traffic woes in this area?
Transportation is a real big issue, and it's very, the answers are many. There's been a commission to study transportation, a bipartisan commission, and the results of that study haven't come out yet. But I think obvious things, you have to take people off the highways. You have to give incentives to commuters. You have to have more rail cars on Metro North. I just thought simple little ideas like we have a commuter lot here. What a great private industry to build up if somebody says, okay, park here and I'll run a shuttle back and forth between the train station. You don't have to pay to park down there, and the traffic to get there would be less, and you can ride the train to work. We know that in the past we have not been putting enough money into the transportation fund to fix our bridges and roads. Our bridges are falling apart, and we don't want to see another tragedy like we saw before with bridges that are not maintained. So we definitely, there's a lot of things that are being studied with regard to how we get more money into transportation, but there is no doubt we have to get more money into transportation. We have to dedicate certain revenue streams to that. And the gas tax originally was going to be part of transportation, but not all of that revenue is going into transportation. So we need to direct a lot of funds into developing, like I said, rail cars, road repair, finding new incentives for people to work together, drive together. It's better for the environment, it's better for the congestion, and it's better for the infrastructure.
Another problem that I've heard about nowadays is just the education problem. No Child Left Behind is a policy that's not really funded, and there's a report that just came out recently just showed that a lot of schools in Connecticut are doing pretty low in terms of the student proficiency. What would you do to address that problem with the quality of education in our schools so the students will get a quality education and get their test scores higher?
Well, I think there's a problem with how we measure progress and how we measure the school's progress. I think you need to, right now we have, if the school doesn't meet a certain target, a certain percentage, they're considered failing, and every year the step increases from one percentage to the next. And that creates problems. You need to measure that progress more on a curve. You need to look at specific types of learners, and you have to measure the progress based on the different groups, because you're showing what the school's done doesn't really show that the kids are actually keeping up. It's an average. And so we need to make the progress, the accountability on an individual basis. We have to follow that. So changing how we hold the schools accountable is one, but the other way is a lot of people, when you mention the word regionalism, they don't want to say, oh, we don't want to give up our local control. But what we could do and start with is have regional summits, have superintendents get together, share ideas, share problems, talk about curriculum. We don't need to reinvent the wheel 169 times. And maybe people will walk away from one of those conferences saying, okay, that's a great idea. Or, you know what, I'm using that textbook, you're using that textbook, we're using that textbook. You know, maybe we buy that textbook together and save money. I mean, even simple things, when you cooperate and you share ideas, it's going to help everybody. It's going to help your school district, it help other school districts in your region, and that's what we want to do. We want to raise the education level for all our students in all the areas of Connecticut.
All right, well, great. Well, let's give this last pitch for you. You can just look right into the camera and just talk to the people out there and say, hey, why do you feel you're the best person for state rep? So I'll give you your shameless pitch, and you just go right ahead.
Okay. I feel I'm the best person to be state representative because I definitely have the experience. I have sort of the public service genes built into me, and I have never loved a job like I've loved being in Hartford and working for people and producing real results. I want to make Monroe's voice louder, clearer, and stronger. I've been, like I said, in the legislature, building relationship on bipartisan basis, and working with people up in Hartford, and I've been watching Monroe's voice. I've been watching what my representative said on my behalf, on my neighbor's behalf, and I didn't think she was in touch with what the people of Monroe and Newtown want. The 112th has not been properly represented. We haven't had effective leadership. We have serious problems. And right now we need to focus on those priorities such as property taxes and the economy, our schools and health care. And that's what the people want to see. They want to see that they're being represented according to their actual needs, and that their representative is in touch with them. And the most important way you do that is you get out into the community and you talk to individuals. What's been lacking is regular hours in Monroe to go and see your state representative. I would absolutely make sure I can make myself available to the people of the 112th by having a local office here and local office hours. I think Monroe, because it's a split Senate district, our representative is really important, and we haven't had the attention we deserve, and I want to go and give our community and our citizens the representation that they need and they deserve.